Nuclear energy and its effects on the environment. Introduction. Energy is required for industrial and domestic operations. Some countries have uranium and titanium deposits that are the major raw materials for the production of nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is produced during a chemical reaction that emits energy that can be converted to electricity. This process is called nuclear fusion. By the end of 2009, 10 to 15% of the world's electrical energy was believed to come from nuclear energy sources. This paper discusses the current and future uses of nuclear energy. It also analyzes the advantages and disadvantages of this source of energy. Nuclear energy. Nuclear resources have been used for a long time as a weapon that has destructive power. However, it can be utilized to benefit industries as a source of energy. When used as a power source, it is produced by controlling nuclear reactions and directing them to yield energy. In the United States, more than 150 naval vessels are using nuclear energy. They generate the power that comes from a fission process where thorium or plutonium is mixed with uranium, or it can also be derived from the fusion of hydrogen into helium. According to Walker, nuclear energy is estimated to have 10 million times more power than coal. Again, the reserves for the products are still not exploited, thus the world can rely on it. Australia has the world's largest potential for nuclear power. The energy, when well developed, can be relied upon by industries, homes, transport, and so on. The usage of nuclear power. The world's increase in population, industrialization, urbanization, and modernization has resulted in higher demand for energy among people and countries. Globalization and technology have led to an increased number of industries. In the process of production, fuel is required to run some machines. However, these fuels are major sources of pollution in the environment. Some countries like China, Japan, the United States, Germany, France, and South Africa have tapped nuclear energy and used it for plants and homes. To supply the increasing needs for energy, the world has to exploit the available sources, and nuclear energy falls into the category of less used ones. When exploiting this potential, the world is warned or should be warned of the dangers that such an operation can have on society and the environment. When nuclear reactants come across the environment or people, they are highly destructive and can lead to massive damage. In the recent case of the Japan earthquake of 2011, the world stands threatened by dangers that having a nuclear plant in a country can pose. There is an increased threat that such plants are going to become destructive to human beings and the environment. This move is prompting governments of different nations to rethink the development of nuclear energy. However, despite the threats, the world is likely to come up with better practices in developing nuclear plants and use the energy after having put measures to mitigate all dangers. Nuclear energy's impact on the environment. The major source of energy in the world is petroleum. However, in the process of use, it emits greenhouse gases that harm human beings and the environment. Nuclear energy emits minimal greenhouse gases, thus, it is regarded as an environmentally friendly energy source. However, in the case of a leakage, the effects that the products have on the environment are colossal and long-lasting. Nuclear reagents are destructive to human beings and the environment. They burn the environment, and the effect can be passed to future generations. Nuclear energy, when well controlled, is one of the forms of clean energy. Waste from the plants is estimated to be less than 1%. The waste produced from nuclear energy can be used for other purposes. Uranium and plutonium, which are major components in a nuclear energy plant, can be exploited up to 95% and used to make mixed oxide oil and put to other commercial gains. Advantages and disadvantages of using nuclear energy. The world has adequate nuclear reserves that can be used to sustain the current rates of energy consumption. Again, nuclear energy can be manufactured in laboratories so that, if well regulated, it can be the energy source of the future. Carbon, being one of the greenhouse gases that lead to global warming, to the environmental advantages, using nuclear energy reduces its emissions into the environment. Of late, there is no 100% remedy for nuclear reactor effects. It is believed that even those plants that seem to be tightly sealed have some leakages that affect the environment, which leads to environmental, health, and economic long-lasting issues. Radioactive waste from the production of nuclear energy negatively affects the lives of human beings and the environment. The effects of nuclear reactor spillover can be understood by the consequences it had on Japan after the 1945 bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Even today, many years after the bombing, the effects are still felt by the people who survived as they suffer from cancer, leukemia, and other related illnesses. These diseases have been passed on genetically to their offsprings in the succeeding generations. For military purposes, nuclear plants could become the main targets, and if an attack is successful, the effect can be extensive. If power plants are attacked, they will emit radioactive materials, which will have adverse consequences. When such a plant is hit, the expected damage will spread to the areas that were not meant to be harmed. The recent Japanese earthquake has also unleashed another threat that the plants can produce. In the event of an earthquake, if it destroys a nuclear plant, then the world will be in trouble. Conclusion. The world has the potential to produce nuclear energy. When plants generating energy are well regulated, they can be relied upon for industrial and domestic purposes. However, producing nuclear energy poses security and environmental risks in case the plants are attacked. Despite the threats, an increase in demand for energy in different sectors and the growing international relations are likely to compel governments to develop nuclear energy production.